There is a chance that you've seen SnowRunner in the simulation category, or by watching the trailer, you thought it's a sim game. But is a SnowRunner actually a sim game? The best way I can describe it is a SnowRunner is in its own world. But the way so many people play this game is very close to reality, or as close as they can. For example, you're going to drive in a very normal way, like you're driving in real world, but instead of being in real world, you're in a SnowRunner world. So things are different, and so many things are unrealistic. Now, some of the things that are unrealistic are kind of okay. They exist to make the game more balanced, but some of them are genuinely just annoying. So things like the fuel tank capacity of different trucks or the damage system is not realistic, but it's not that annoying. And like, for example, something like the fuel tank capacity is not realistic because it should be balanced. The maps in a SnowRunner are not that big, so having a big fuel tank or the truck having the same fuel tank as the real world version is kind of not okay, because at that point you're just not going to run out of fuel. Now, the things that I find annoying. The transmission is the number one thing that I really don't like. It's just a disaster, to be honest. I really don't have anything good about it to say. When the truck is in auto, you pretty much don't have any control over anything. You're always accelerating, but sometimes you're going fast, sometimes you're going slower, sometimes you're losing power. It's just you can't understand it. But there are things to make it better, like, for example, having the high range gearbox and putting the gear in high and just leaving it there. In that case, you're going to drive with a good, decent speed, and the truck wouldn't change gears or anything on its own. Or you can put the truck in low or low plus when you're in mod and just leave it there. Don't be in auto. Now, the second thing that I personally don't really like is when you're going fast or you're speeding a bit, you cannot control the truck. It's like you have zero grip, you're driving on ice, and it gets even worse when you're pulling a trailer. The trailer is going to be all over the road and it's doing its own thing. Now, there are other things that are unrealistic but not that annoying. For example, the suspension sometimes feel, I don't know, weird. Maybe I'm wrong, but some of the trucks in a SnowRunner really jump up and down a lot and they're like bouncing all the time. And the brakes are not that good either. Now, with all of that said, it doesn't mean all the time you can't get the feeling of driving a big heavy truck in some really harsh terrain. When you're going slow in a SnowRunner, things are mostly fine. So many of the problems that I mentioned would go away and the game would actually feel really good. But you have to go slow. You need to leave the gear in low or low plus and just enjoy your time. The environment in this game is absolutely beautiful. It's really stunning, and as I've said, most of the things would be fun when you're driving slow. Now, for quite some time I used to put SnowRunner in the simulation category because I thought it's kinda a sim game, but now I really don't know where should I put a SnowRunner. It's a driving, trucking, off-roading game, maybe a bit of an arcade game, maybe, but it has its own challenges and it has its own world. So if you want to play SnowRunner and you want to enjoy the game, you just have to accept a bunch of things. It's not completely like the real world. Yes, there are things that are unrealistic and some of them could be annoying, but even with all that, you can really get lost in this game. Sometimes you even forget that you're playing in an unrealistic world. Now, so many things are unrealistic to make the game more fun, more balanced, and challenging, but in a way that the challenge wouldn't piss you off, because some of the unrealistic things are actually there to help you. So the best way to play a SnowRunner is to understand it's a game and it's not a simulation. But so many times you get a good feeling when you're driving vehicles in a SnowRunner. Now, I'm saying that because I don't want you to buy a SnowRunner and think it's a simulation game and you're going to have a really realistic experience. If I'm being honest with you, you're just not gonna get that. You have to get used to the world of a SnowRunner and then you can enjoy the game. That's it for today's video. I see you in the next one.